A mysterious black truck just passed out all of these expensive bionic face shields to protesters in LA, and the news caught it on camera. Guess who's behind this message? Christy Walton, part of the Walmart family.
Disrupted.
Weird thing to happen. So we had the Trump military parade, and on the other side of the coin was the No Kings march that happened all across America. No Kings, millions to protest Trump's dictator-style birthday parade. A national day of protest is set for June 14th. Can nonviolent resistance counter Trump's authoritarian show of force? So here's just some photographs here of all the different events from different cities across America here. Here's Boise, Idaho, Chicago, Illinois, Austin, Texas. So you could see it's not just blue Democrat states, but also the red Republican states, also the very, very heavy Trump-supporting districts are also coming together in alliance with this march, this demonstration to be resilient against the abuse of power of staging this event, taking $45 million that, Doge was supposed to be scounding on for fraud and abuse, and then use it for fraud and abuse. So this is happening all across America. Here's San Francisco. They had a little demonstration out on the beaches, and they formed this kind of shape saying "No King." That's kind of cool on the beach there. Here's some signs that people had during the demonstration, which I gotta admit, it's kind of creative when they do this. You sucked in Home Alone 2. IKEA has better cabinets. Yes, that red hat does make your dick look small. They're eating the checks. They're eating the balances. I like that one. I thought that one was pretty clever. So you can kind of see, pretty non-violent, non-extreme event. It's just people coming together to simply protest the Trump administration's embrace of power and staging this event for his birthday, which doesn't actually commemorate any of the military personnel, any of the armed forces, but is just there as a demonstration to show how forceful the Trump administration can be, not only around the world, but forceful against its own people, as we've seen in previous instances. So it looks all good and well, but the fun and games unfortunately went abrupt when this news came about. This is from ABC, saying Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman killed state senator Don Hoffman, wounded in targeted political violence. The suspected gunman, identified as Vance Bolzer, remains on the run. So a guy who was in attendance at these rallies in Minnesota shot these two people. One of them died, and the other one is critically injured. So DC Drano, once this news came out, everything kind of went to a halt. And DC Drano says the No Kings protest is officially a domestic terrorist movement. Which, that kind of raises a lot of suspicion on this incident. That automatically, things started looking okay. It was just, colorful signs. People just, protesting as be. No harm, no foul, just people gathering together. There was no violent acts. And then all of a sudden, this lone person at a Minnesota event tracks down and tries to kill both these people. And all of a sudden, it turns around to say that the No Kings protest, the entire demonstration, is a domestic terrorist movement. It kind of raises suspicion. The Minnesota assassin was a radical Democrat who had No Kings flyers in his vehicles and targeted Democrat politicians who voted against the free health care for illegal aliens. Time to shut it all down. So is it kind of interesting that all of a sudden this one incident just miraculously out of the air that no one's aware of, no one suspected anything, all of a sudden now they found a way to shut down the entire process of this event, this nationwide demonstration, Even though there's not other instances across the country. Isn't it kind of interesting? So here's the police in Minnesota talking about how this lonesome guy, who apparently was at one of the No Kings rallies in Minnesota, managed to get No Kings flyers, which it really much looks like it's hand drawn. I don't think they're, the exact flyers that peaceful advocates and activists would be putting on display. But here's what one of the police commissioners in Minnesota explained about this.
Are there reasons to believe that these events were also targeted by the person in the manifesto in the car?
We don't have any direct links. However, there were some flyers that said No Kings within the suspect vehicle. And as we know, the planned events throughout the state of Minnesota today is a No Kings event.
And so the reference materials.
So they don't have any evidence. They don't have any backing. They have no idea about this guy. But surprisingly, he had a bunch of flyers, ironically, with No Kings at a No Kings rally. Just a coincidence. That's why we're going to shut down the nationwide protest. How many times have we seen a staged event like this before? How many times have we seen it? I'm not saying it was staged, but I'm just saying kind of leaning in that direction.
That were inside of the vehicle that we saw. We have no understanding that any of the No Kings events would be targeted, but we also find it of interest to the public that these would be in there, and we want to alert everybody until we do that. Because this is such an active investigation with information not knowing right now, we feel it's an obligation to all of you and the public across the state of Minnesota to alert you of it, and that's why the Colonel made the notation of recommending people don't go today. But the individuals are not in custody yet, and so we want to make sure as that very active manhunt is underway and continues, that we make sure that we're sharing that, and that's part of why we're making the recommendation. As to the investigation and the list, we are working through that now and talking to individuals, and we'll continue to. What I would say with the list is there's a large number of people. That's all I can say about it. We will work through all of that, what the motivations of this are, and we'll provide that as you can. This is really a public safety announcement for everybody so that we can make sure people are informed and make safe decisions throughout the day.
Very, very, very telling. They don't know motives. They don't know where this man came from. They identified the suspect. This man got flyers with No Kings written on them. And they're associating that to the fact that he was at a No Kings rally. And that's how they deemed the entire demonstration, not just in that particular city, but all across America, is considered a domestic terrorist threat. Kind of very telling there. So here, suspect in the Minnesota attack is reportedly Vance Luther Bolter. He was appointed to the governor's Workforce Development Board in 2019 by Governor Tim Walz. Oh, Tampon Tim is back. Wonder where he went. Must have had too many white guy tacos. But Tim Walz appointed this guy. Bolter had No Kings flyers in his car. Walz needs to resign. That's from this guy, Paul A. Suspa. Nick Sorter points this out. Just in, Minnesota officials have once again refused to release assassin Vance Bolter's manifesto, saying there's not enough there. He has a manifesto, but we can't release it. It's, again, eerily similar to when Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino go on television, wave the flag of, oh, we got all this information on Epstein, but we can't release it. We got all the tapes. We got all the proof we need, but we can't release it. And we can't tell you why. Now here's the guy that Tim Walz appointed as part of the board. He has a manifesto, and they can't even release any of it. This is what they said here.
I'm going to give Ellen, we're going to give it to Ellen, and then we're going to have one more question.
Can you talk a little bit more about the manifesto and what kind of
At this point in time, it'd be premature. The question was, is the manifesto and the information that we have received, is their motivations? We are working diligently on that. There's certainly some indications within that, but there's not specifics enough. We have been, this is a very active and fluid investigation. Throughout the day, as you've been waiting, and these teams have been out working out in the field, and they have been gathering more documents and information, so it would be premature for me at this point to really say exactly what the motivation might be from these writings, but we will be continuing to work on that and provide that information when we're able.
So they're saying that they can't release the manifesto because they don't have enough information to release the manifesto. What kind of argument is that? What kind of argument is that? You have documentation, release what you have, and then if there's further developments, then you release that at a later time. That makes no sense. I'm not going to release the manifesto because there's not enough information to release the manifesto. What? Either you have something that you want to tell us, or you have nothing. And obviously, by this statement, and obviously by the look on his face, they have something, but they're not willing to release it because it would expose who this man really is and expose the motives behind all of this, purposely done to shut down this entire demonstration. Why else would all of a sudden a violent attack on 2 Democrats happen? Why else would that happen? It just seems too convenient that a man who was working for Tim Walz, of all people, opened fire at 2 representatives, a representative and state senator. The state senator survived. The representative is dead. Opened fire, and now all of a sudden, because of this incident that happened at the rally, that was a peaceful demonstration, now everyone's freaking out that this rally has become violent. Where have you seen this before? It is not that hard to figure out. It's not rocket science to figure out that they use patsies purposely to shut down demonstrations, especially ones that coordinate Republicans, Democrats, independents, left versus right. No matter who you are, it brings it all together. They try to shut it down. So here, this is from Cash Lorne saying, terrified. Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman was assassinated today. On the left, listen to how terrified she is after announcing she was voting to strip criminal aliens of health care. The assassin was a political appointee of Tim Walz. On the right, Tim Walz is dog whistling for political violence. Reports say Vance Bolter was impersonating law enforcement. So he posed undercover as a law enforcement to open fire at 2 other Democrats to cause mayhem at this No Kings rally. He's a federal agent. He's a federal patsy. He's a federal patsy to cause this commotion. Now, I don't know about this stripping criminal health care scare tactic here, but here's some of the video of this woman before she was assassinated of how she looked terrified and sounded choked up to strip away criminal aliens' healthcare rights. Listen to this.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision. I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget. Portman knows she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
I think what's even more angry and amazing is that Democrats will jump over ordinary Americans who were demanding health care for almost an eternity now and give illegal migrants healthcare before American citizens, tax-paying American citizens. Isn't that kind of insane? Isn't that insane that the Democratic Party, the one that's on your side, they pledge to be the working class party against the tyrannicalness of Trump, they will provide health care to illegal aliens before they give health care to ordinary Americans, Americans who pay their taxes, which would fundamentally pay for Medicare for all. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And they're so on board that there's this woman who voted against it, sounded petrified. She was choked up about this. And now here's Tim Walz after these two individuals shot that bill down. Here's Tim Walz.
Out on this because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back. You push back.
Yeah, get your tampons from the men's room and come on! Let's fight! Oh my God. It shows what a circus all this is. It really is a circus. Because Tim Walz, when he makes the statement of fighting back against tyranny, fighting against dictators, fighting against the tyrannicalness of the administration, he's not referring to the system. He's not referring to the deep state. He's not referring to the CIA, the FBI, all the agencies that are posing against you. He's not talking about that because he's part of that machine. He's part of that system. No, he wants everyone to be angry at Trump and ignore everything else. This shows how partisan this back and forth hack job sanity has gone, where everybody's in their little tribes, everybody's fighting against each other based on their commitment to these tribes, and yet, while they're distracted on fighting, the rest of the establishment is coordinating together to further oppress the majority of America. And by majority, I mean the working class people, and the people that aren't affected by this are the billionaires that are profiting from this destruction. Do you see how you're being abused constantly? Do you see that being in this cult, whether Democrat or Republican, is not helping you whatsoever? That's what these political parties are. They're cults. They're cults meant to divide people. They're meant to divide people so that they can distract you and then conquer over you. That's what's happening here. And now they got their perfect little patsy to go after two Democrats, pose themselves as a supporter for this No Kings rally, and try to deem this as a domestic terrorist act. Now the No Kings rallies that seemed peaceful and just had colorful signs and cute sayings, they're now deemed domestic terrorists because of this incident. A guy who was handpicked by Tim Walz. Do you see how convenient it is? Do you see that it's right in front of you that this guy was obviously a patsy for the establishment to shut all this down? It's not Donald Trump that did this. It was the Democrats. It was the Democrats. Because the Democrats are also threatened by this No Kings thing. They're not supporting it in the way that you should be actually supporting it. They're trying to tribalize it. They're trying to take this demonstration and try to capture it so that you only focus on Trump and Elon Musk and that side of the disaster, but not focus on the orchestration, the entire oligarchy as a whole. And here is just a bit of an example to this, because guess who sponsored the No Kings rally. Billionaire Walmart heiress promotes nationwide anti-Trump protests on June 14th. That's right. The Walmart Barbie herself paid a fortune to back these demonstrations. Do you really think she cares about taking down dictators? No, because she profits off the dictators. She'd rather have this oligarchy going against the whims of the American public so that Walmart doesn't have to pay a living wage, so they don't unionize, so they can exploit more people. They can exploit their customers. They can do whatever they want. And here, this is from a TikToker. I don't know who this woman is, but she's going to explain, being reported by Fox News, that the Walmart heiress, and Walmart in particular, were helping not only financially to keep these rallies afloat, but also gave bionic masks to these demonstrators. And this is becoming worse and worse. More out of a peaceful demonstration, which usually starts out, but then once you get agitators, once you get influencers from outside the cause, it becomes more deviant and becomes more destructive and trying to crush down the dissent of what that original demonstration was about. This is coordinated efforts. This is how they've done it for years. The FBI made it a priority to shut down demonstrations that went against the establishment. And this is how they do it. Watch.
This is wild. A mysterious black truck just passed out all of these expensive bionic face shields to protesters in LA, and the news caught it on camera. I zoomed in and found out this is the UVEX bionic shield. These are not cheap. They're around $45 to $65, and you can't just get them in bulk. But one place that sells them is Walmart. And why is that important? Because there's a new protest being promoted called No Kings on June 14th. And even celebrities like Chrissy Teigen are posting it. And it's in magazines and newspapers. And guess who's behind this message? Christy Walton. That's right, one of the billionaire heiresses, a part of the Walmart family. Now, I don't know why they would be behind that protest against President Trump, but remember, just less than 3 weeks ago, President Trump tweeted about the whole tariff situation, saying Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars of last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. So, is it possible that maybe the Walmart family didn't like that and now they're finding ways to make their voices heard? Or is this just a big coincidence? As always, let me know what you think about all of this down below.
So there you go. Just a few months ago, that was true, that Walmart, Home Depot, Target, all these big retailers were criticizing Donald Trump for the amount of tariffs and saying it was affecting their inventory, saying that's affecting their sales, even though these retail establishments made billions of dollars. They still profited. They still made a fortune. And it's still not helping the ordinary American public, but because of their hatred towards Trump with the tariffs and trying to get back at him for that, they're now exploiting protesters by providing financial assistance and these shields to use them to their advantage. Now these No Kings protesters are siding along with the kingdom of Walmart to become their little minions, their little slaves, to go further advance this No Kings protest against Donald Trump. It's just so amazing. Just so amazing. This is happening. And it almost seems familiar to this incident back 14 years ago. Remember the Tea Party? Remember the Tea Party that was supposed to revolutionize the Republican Party? The Tea Party movement, bought by billionaire Koch brothers, who helped it grow. And what happened to that? What happened to that? Because the Tea Party at first It was a peaceful demonstration. They had some good points. And all of a sudden, a billionaire shows up, pretends to give a damn, goes to the rallies, gives these little speeches, maybe gets some insiders to pose as civilians, and a ruckus starts. That's when you turn a peaceful protest or a peaceful demonstration to their own advantage. And the reason that they put money towards this Tea Party movement was to get and gut out the government that was putting restrictions on their industries. They want to deregulate the Koch brothers industries. They want regulations to be stopped. So they paid protesters pretending to be part of this Tea Party movement to go after Republicans. It's so hilarious. It's so hilarious. They call this a no kings rally, and yet you are surrounded by kings. You are surrounded by kings. Trump is not the only king. The Walmarts, the Koch brothers, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos. Do I need to name more? You are surrounded by kings. You're surrounded by a criminal cartel. And none of these people were actually protesting the true catastrophe of why all this is happening. They're not protesting Palantir. They're not protesting how this outrageous company that is continuing the destruction of Gaza is selling out Americans' data and using it as a track surveillance system. They're not protesting that. They're not protesting the rest of the billionaires. Only Donald Trump. Only Donald Trump. Again, to make this tribal. They want to keep people in their lanes, and that's where you get, even though you saw those colorful signs earlier, that's where you get this. If Kamala were president, we'd be at brunch. Just mimicking what 2016 was about. Oh, if Hillary Clinton was elected, we'd be at brunch. AKA, if my party wins, if it's my colors in the White House, I can plug my ears and forget anyone else's problems. That's what they want you to train. That's why you see this back and forth tension between the right and the left, this bipolar back and forth, anger at each other, keep people distracted, and not actually solve any problems. And that's what you see in this woman. When you hold a sign like that, that means you really don't care about systemic problems. You really don't care about really solving homelessness or hunger or rights or anything like that. You just fabricate yourself so you hope your team wins. That's all it is. And sadly, that's what a lot of this No Kings movement, again, it started with good intentions, but then once you got the Walmart billionaire involved with it, you got other backers involved with it, you had that incident, the violent attack from a Tim Waltz appointee, that's what caused a ruckus. And as this guy Jason Call points out, I'm not going to shit on the No Kings protests. If it is a sign that people are waking up, then excellent. However, and he relates to another Jason Call tweet here, good No Kings showing up in Starwood and Marysville this morning. But I will say, if your goal as a participant is not to dismantle capitalism, an empire that these protests are nothing burgers and will lead to more kings. Exactly. That your focus on Donald Trump, your minuscule focus on Donald Trump, ignores the bigger perspective, ignores everything else. The whole reason that Donald Trump even exists in this political world is because of this oligarch system. It's because of this late stage capitalism that's catastrophically destroying your country within. And they're manufacturing, they're programming people to remain in their tribes, to be angry at the others, angry at people that differ away from the tribes, to use them and bait them as their own little minions. That's what all this is about. And I'm saying that on behalf of Democrats and Republicans. You're both idiots. That's the coming conclusion. You're both idiots. You're both duped. You're both in a cult. You're both abusing yourselves to serve your masters and lords that run tribes for you. And they think that you think that they care about you, but they don't. They only care about you when you're useful for them. When it's getting votes, when it's getting support, when it's coming to rallies. But when push comes to shove, these parties despise you. These people despise you. And it's because you are surrounded by nothing but kings. Not just Donald Trump, but the entire system is a kingdom. The entire system is a kingdom. You are the peasants. You are the disgusting bunch. You are the bottom feeders from the billionaire class, the aristocrats, the oligarchs that have master control over you, and they want to push you down as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to keep you arguing with your friends and family and neighbors. The best way to do that is to keep you arguing with the others, which is what all this is really about. Didn't actually do anything. It didn't actually systemically change anything. There's a reason why the No Kings protest was allowed to occur on a nationwide schedule in comparison to the Freedom Convoy. Once the Freedom Convoy shut down the bridges going in from the United States and Canada, and the Canadian government and the U.S. government realized that, trading, we're losing business in trading, that's when shit hit the fan. That's when bank accounts started to freeze. That's when they started attacking those people. That's when you really know you really changed the system. You're really doing something. You're really calling to action for something. This, unfortunately, was a nothing burger. It's cute. It's nice. It's a demonstration. I get why people are supporting this. I get why people are out and about protesting. But you're leaving out a huge perspective. You're leaving out the big picture of why all this is happening. You're so focused on Trump. It's like having blinders on. You're so dead focused on Trump, but everything around you is a problem. And that's where this guy, Jason Call, completely points it out. So good on him to finally get the bigger picture of this.